Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for coming back. I hope that you enjoyed the first video that I posted all about Wicca. Hopefully you've figured out if Wicca is right for you or not. So first of all, if you haven't watched the first video in this Uncloaked series, please go watch that one and then come back and watch this one. You can watch this one on its own, but you might be a little bit confused because we are going to talk about Wicca versus witchcraft and what makes them different and what makes them similar. So it will help if you have that base understanding of Wicca that you're going to get from the first video that I posted. So go watch that and then scurry on back and watch this one. So if you watched that first video that I posted, hopefully you've been reading the two books I recommended by Scott Cunningham, Wicca and Living Wicca. Hopefully you're enjoying them and hopefully they're resonating with you, and continue to read those for sure. I'm 5 years into my Wicca practice and I'm still referring back to those books from time to time. So today I am so excited because today it is time to tell you guys all about witchcraft and all about magic. So we're going to talk about the differences between Wicca and witchcraft. We're going to talk about what magic is. We're going to talk about different kinds of magic, different kinds of spells, and we're going to debunk some nonsense. So let's get started. So our first point, what is witchcraft? Witchcraft is the practice of magic. So if you are a witch, if you identify as a witch, you do spells, you do rituals with magical workings. Okay, so let's spend some time talking about what magic is, because if you're anything like me when I first started out in Wicca, my only understanding of magic was Charmed and Buffy and like Hocus Pocus, which I mean are all beautiful, incredible creations, but definitely not true to life, as much as I wish they were. I want to be the next Slayer. For a Charmed one? So magic is not what you see in the movies, is not what you see in the media. There will be no crazy glittering balls of energy. There will be no sparks and explosions, and you're not gonna blow anything up with a potion. You're not gonna shoot something out of your hand. You're not gonna levitate. You're not gonna do those things. Magic in the real world is much more subtle. It's much simpler than you would think. So my favorite way that magic has ever been explained to me is the way that Scott Cunningham explains it in the book Wicca, which I recommended to you at the end of the last video. So hopefully maybe you've already read this, but I'm just gonna read what he says because it's, in my opinion, the best way to explain magic. Magic is the projection of natural energies to produce needed effects. So basically, through magic, through spell work, you are doing things that will help call in the energy of whatever it is that you're trying to gain with that spell. Scott Cunningham also says, magic is a method whereby individuals, under none but self-determined predestination, take control of their lives. So essentially, by doing a spell or a ritual involving magic, one is calling in the energy of whatever it is that that spell or ritual is trying to manifest. So when you're doing that spell or ritual, the power of that energy starts to help that thing manifest. For example, if I was trying to do a prosperity spell, the prosperity doesn't even necessarily have to be money, it could just be prosperous in any other form of your life. So basically, you would gather the things that you need that represent prosperity and help you call in prosperity, and then you would do that spell or ritual using those items, and then during the spell or ritual, it probably involves some kind of visualization or some kind of calling something in verbally or through thought or through action. And all of those things create kind of a path for whatever you're calling in to manifest in the real world. So like Scott Cunningham talks about in his books, magic is in every religion. People just don't think of it as magic, but really, truly it is magic. So one example that a teacher that I once had gave to me is, so take for example, in Catholicism, you take communion. I am not Catholic, I've never been Catholic, so I'm not going to pretend to fully understand the concept of communion, but basically what communion boils down to is the parishioner consuming the body and blood of Christ. And Catholics truly believe that in that moment of communion, as you drink that wine and as you eat that bread, it truly becomes the flesh of Christ and the blood of Christ. So obviously, you're not literally eating a piece of flesh or a cup of blood. You're using that bread and that wine or that grape juice to represent what you're calling in. If you're using these things to represent this greater idea of the blood and body of Christ, then it just amplifies that power that much more by actually having something to consume. So instead of just maybe saying that you're consuming it or that it's one with you, you can actually physically do an act that makes you create that connection. So through that, honestly, ritual magic, you're becoming one with that entity. So that is a spell. That is a ritual that involves magic. And magic is really as simple as that. It's a lot about symbolism. It's a lot about the correspondence of the things that you're using, creating a path for what you want to manifest. So as you learned in my first video, Wicca is a religion. So witchcraft is different in that it is not a religion. Witchcraft is a practice. So while Wicca is my religion, witchcraft is a practice that I do that relates to my religion and feeds into my religion, but it's not my religion. So Wicca and witchcraft are not the same thing. Wicca is a religion and witchcraft is a spiritual practice. So while they may overlap and they may feed into each other, they are not the same thing. And the distinction between the two is very important in my opinion. I know there are lots of Wiccans who practice Wicca, but do not practice witchcraft. They do not identify as witches. They only identify as Wiccan. So that is why I personally do not use the words Wiccan and witch interchangeably. One of the most important reasons I think that it's important to make the distinction between Wiccan and witch is you can be from any religion and also be a witch. So any witchcraft practice can be paired with any religion. I follow quite a few blogs on Tumblr that are run by Catholic witches. So they're Catholic, they go to church every Sunday, they believe in the Christian God, but they also do spells and they also do magical workings that aid their religious practice, Catholicism. So I think it's super important to differentiate between Wiccans and witches and not just say, oh, she's a witch when really she's Wiccan, because witch is not synonymous with Wiccan. Witchcraft is not a religion and Wicca is not witchcraft. Wicca and witchcraft do sound similar. They do kind of tend to get grouped together within the media and within people's minds, but they are not the same thing. And the differences between the two are very important. So who are witches? So as we just said a little bit when we were talking about the difference between Wicca and witch, witches can be anybody from any religion. There are Jewish witches, there are Catholic witches, there are Wiccan witches, there are other kinds of pagans that are witches. The only qualification you need to be a witch is to practice witchcraft, and that makes you a witch. So anyone can be a witch. And something I really want to spend some time talking about because it bothers me so much. Witch is a gender-neutral term. Anyone can be a witch. You can be a man, you can be a woman, you can be non-binary, you can be transgender, you can be cisgender, it does not matter. Gender is a construct, and witchcraft recognizes that. And that misconception has always existed, but when you get things in the media, such as TV shows or movies or books or anything like that, that involve magic or witches in a fictional setting, there's almost always a differentiation between the male witches and the female witches, and that's not true to life. Witches can be boys just as much as they can be girls, just as much as they can be a genderless, beautiful unicorn. So don't think that because you're non-binary or because you're a man, then you can't be a witch. Witch is not just cis women. That's bullshit. Witches are everyone. So that brings us into the different kinds of magic and the different kinds of spells. So a spell is a spiritual exercise that directs energy toward a specific goal or intention. So there are many different kinds of spells, and each one of those spells falls under a category of what type of magic it is. So there are 3 different kinds of magic. There's personal magic, there's sacred magic, and then there's sorcery. And then on top of that is the concept of light magic and dark magic. You might also hear it referred to as white and black magic. Most personal magic is light magic. All sacred magic is light magic, and then sorcery is entirely dark magic. Personal magic is anything that you do for yourself, for your own life. Some examples of personal magic would be a prosperity spell, like I talked about before, or a luck spell, or a spell to attract blank. Anything that you're doing for your own life to achieve something or get something or call in something that you don't already have or that you want more of. Or maybe you're doing the opposite of that. You're doing personal magic that is to get rid of an old habit that you have or break an old pattern that you have. That's also personal magic. So all those things would be personal magic. Anything that's for yourself. And then sacred magic is all about the greater good. Sacred magic is anything that you do for the good of everyone and everything. So this is kind of like the ultimate magic in my book. It's the ultimate light magic. It's about healing, it's about protection, it's about growth, it's about love. So some examples of sacred magic would be if you're going to do a ritual to heal the earth or to just send the earth healing energy, that's sacred magic. And I also personally put any kind of healing magic in this category of sacred magic. So if you're doing any kind of thing where you're trying to heal yourself or someone else or something else, then that's sacred magic because it's for the good of everyone. If one person heals, then everyone heals. We're all connected. So any kind of healing magic is sacred magic. And then our last category of magic, sorcery. Sorcery is any kind of magic that affects the free will of others, like hexes, curses, banishing, binding, love spells. Any kind of spell that is taking away the choice of someone else and bending it to your will. All of this, because it affects the free will of others, falls under the category of dark magic. I personally, because of the Wiccan Read, because I am both a witch and a Wiccan, I have the Wiccan Read guiding my witchcraft practice, so I don't do any dark magic. And we're going to make a whole video about the different kinds of spells. If I'm saying these kinds of spells and you're like, what the hell is this lady talking about? My personal magical practice consists mainly of sacred magic. Like I've said before, I'm a Reiki practitioner and an Akashic Records practitioner, and both Reiki and the Akashic Records have to do with healing. So a lot of my practice just kind of centers around healing myself. I do healings on others, and then I do healings for the earth and for animals and just for the greater good of everything that's alive. So that's mostly what my magical practice is, but I have definitely done the occasional personal magic just to help me reach my goals and feel more confident and really reach for things in the way that I want to. And that magic and that spell work really just gives you the extra nudge that you need to really get where you're going. So I've definitely done personal magic too. So my practice consists mostly of sacred magic just because that's what I feel called to and that's what feels good to me, and also because I am also Wiccan. So within my witchcraft practice, I'm not kind of just like doing whatever. I have a bit of a guideline, but in terms of sorcery, I don't touch that. I don't hex, I don't curse. I don't want to do anything that impacts anyone's free will. I have done banishings simply because sometimes you want someone to go away because they're hurting you and they won't go away. Sometimes it's about protecting yourself, and if someone or something is hurting you, then I think it's fully within your right to respectfully both ask them in real life and through magic to step away from you and leave you alone. But still, I like to do that as like a last resort. I'm not gonna banish someone until I feel like I absolutely have to. And also, like, in my opinion, banishing someone is kind of the least sorcery-ish of all the sorceryness. Wow. Just because if you're banishing someone, you're not hurting them. It's kind of like you're just like putting a wall between the two of you. In my opinion, it's more of a protection thing. So I don't think there's anything really wrong with doing that, as long as you're not like, you're banished and you're banished. No. No. I think it's a good idea when you're first starting out with witchcraft and with magic to kind of set guidelines for yourself and decide what you want to partake in. Because while, yes, it could be fun to just steamroll over everything that's difficult and kind of just take what you want and make people do stuff and, you know, just kind of like completely fuck with everything. It's not a good look. And really, really, truly, the threefold law gonna get your ass. Before you do any kind of spell or any kind of ritual involving magic or anything like that, take a moment, think about it. Do I really need to do this? Do I really want to do this? Have I thought about all the possible outcomes if I do this? Does this feel good in my body to be doing this? And then decide, do you want to do it? Never do any kind of magical working in the heat of an emotion. Take some time, take a couple days, get back in your centered mind, and then decide, do I still want to do this? Is this still worth it? Because it's almost never worth it. And at the end of the day, you don't want to be like them. If someone has hurt you, no matter how severely, you don't want to sink to their level by cursing them or hexing them. And if you curse them, then that brings you into the cycle of negativity. And then you both kind of fall into an abyss of shit. You can do whatever you want. I'm not gonna like show up in your house like, hey, stop it. Do what you want, but maybe don't. Also, consider that. This week, I'm not going to give you too much self-work simply because I want you to continue to read the 2 books that I recommended to you in the first video of this Wicca series. So keep reading those 2 books, especially the chapters on magic. And it's 2 books, so that should keep you plenty busy. And then the only other little bit of self-work that I'm going to add on this week for you to do is to, if you're not already, get into meditation. There are a lot of different kinds of meditation. Probably when you hear the word meditation, the first thing you think of is emptying your mind, which is definitely a type of meditation, but is not the only kind of meditation. And sometimes that can be really daunting. And if you're sitting there meditating and you can't get your thoughts to stop moving or going different directions, then you can start to feel like you're doing it wrong, or you can just kind of start to have a lot of negative self-talk within yourself, and that's not productive. Just start meditating without putting too much pressure on yourself. It's important to meditate as regularly as possible if you're going to practice witchcraft and magic, because a lot of magic is achieved through visualization, through intention, through focus, through concentration. And meditation will help with all of those things. So there are a lot of good apps for meditation. There are a lot of good books for meditation. I'm sure you could look up some YouTube videos about meditation if you want something more guided, if you want to do a guided meditation. But you can also literally just sit wherever you feel comfortable and just close your eyes and meditate for as long as you feel like you can. Maybe start with 10 minutes. And then slowly add like 5 minutes here and there as you feel like you can sit for longer and focus for longer. One type of meditation that I personally love to do that maybe you could try out is with a candle. Just light the candle and then meditate by, instead of closing your eyes, just stare at the flame of the candle for the duration of your meditation, and that can be its own form of meditation. I personally like to do that kind of meditation when I'm feeling a bit more scattered and a bit more sometimes even like emotional. If I'm more upset but I still want to meditate, I find it hard to kind of close my eyes and be within myself and just be feeling all those emotions, and then my thoughts race even more, and then it's just very counterproductive. But I find that if I'm meditating and I have something to focus on, such as the flame of a candle, then it feels a little less inward. And even if I am meditating, I have something to look at and focus on. So maybe try that too if you feel like you want to ease more into it. Try to do it every day if you can. Find a part of your day that's easy for you to fit meditation in, whether it's in your morning routine or in your evening routine, or to break up your workday maybe. And then keep reading those 2 books, Wicca and Living Wicca by Scott Cunningham. And I will see you next week, and we'll talk about even more exciting things. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. There are so many more videos on the way. I am so excited to continue on this journey with you all. I hope that you found this video just as helpful as the last one, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye.